Anti-terrestrial.
What are we kicking?
What the hell is that?
Okay, we're kicking game.
It's another word for alien. Why does it clip your name after you hit ready to destroy? That's evil.
What is it, what?
It clips your name after you hit ready to destroy.
Oh, so you don't know how much you're going to lose?
What?
Yeah.
That is really dumb.
It is really dumb.
You just have to count now and memorize that number. Alright, so we should have
Mike Daniel!
3, 4, 5.
Two
Is
little,
that right?
two little people on the
2 and Jeremiah makes 6. What's up, Gavin?
There's two little phones.
Wait, what about
No,
Alan's
he's
team?
just watching.
Look behind you, Gavin. How many are on Alan's team? Gavin, look behind you.
What?
Alan's team. Then join Alan's team.
We have 3.
Oh yeah, Davis is on our
We're
team.
waiting on Micah.
Oh, Mike is not here?
I don't have a team.
Well, then Gavin, join Gabe's team.
I don't have a team.
Well, you have a phone now, so you're clearly doing something.
He's watching YouTube.
I don't have internet. So
You don't have internet?
No.
What are you doing with your phone now?
I'm playing him.
My hat hair is disgusting. Like when I have my hat and then I fix my hair, I look like this.
Alrighty, there we go. We got our 16.
No.
Gavin, you want to be on Jeremiah's team?
Sure, I really don't. Okay.
Wait, Jeremiah.
He's gonna win.
Thanks a lot.
I don't have internet and mine works.
Yes, you do.
They changed start.
We're doing Cisco. We're doing Cisco. We were here 5 seconds ago. Spendy Goose.
No, I thought you meant an actual. It actually works.
Yeah, no it does.
Who's the kind geckos?
Oh my gosh, it's like weird.
What's the pin? Yeah, and that's what I told Aiden.
Oh, this is the game.
Guys, why don't we have 16s yet?
Because you just kicked me.
Like, why'd you kick us?
Oh, maybe you should pick better names.
981. You little boy, you.
Oh, I should be 69. Moses, that's what this.
Being too paid. Yeah, I know. I have like two. I tried just
Why?
Alright.
Both of these thumbs?
We're there. We did it. Amazing. 16. On start. Get set. All play.
Set on your mark, get set.
10,
Yeah, on mark, get set.
1, 0, 8, 3,
Negative
6, 13, 8.
72. 72. 5. 1.
That boy's a Bob Cleveland.
Music's like super duper.
It's gonna be Jesus.
You can hear Jesus.
Yay! Whoever got that.
I knew it. Wow, you're welcome, guys.
I'm sorry.
How-
I'm sorry.
That it's
It's a TikTok dance.
I thought it was fine.
I don't know. You are a sussy mama.
Yay! Help Big Daddy!
Yeah.
Micah, Big Daddy!
What's our team called again?
What is he doing? Hustling with no. Hero, what?
Easy Coley.
Flying elephant!
Oh, it's Easy John.
What?
Let's go, baby. Dang! That is not a good
You should
amount
blame
of
him for
people.
playing. Teacher.
That was terrible. It was terrible. Dang it! How?
Just ban him from playing. He's taking away our prizes.
Aiden, what the heck?
Coach, again, you're right.
Wait, he's been alive now for a cheater. Oh my gosh.
Jeremiah, did you get some tandoori?
It's Naruto. He's doing the Naruto run.
That's like next month.
I told you. Because it showed him on a mountain.
That was olives.
But it was a mountain.
Well, the mountain isn't made of olives.
You just told me the answer.
Yellow ones one. What are these giant answers?
I was gonna guess that one, but you said no orange. No.
Hey, take the phone.
I thought that was his Revelations, eldest son and around the
Let's go pick a number.
Oh, 40.
This time I'm taking
What?
I'm taking game back.
It's not looking
Two
good.
dozen, folks.
It's not looking good. It's not looking good.
It's not a dozen donuts, it's 2 dozen donuts.
Okay.
Dunkin' Donuts?
If it's orange, I'm mad. That one.
What did that smell
No one got it!
You're
not even giving us enough time.
Oh, yeah?
There's literally no way.
Sorry, you gotta just know the answer.
I am the one.
Really, 10 were.
Yes, that's
Oh, we'll be going over there. Oh.
We must have time. Right there. We got one.
Woohoo!
Right.
That was the wrong answer. You just got the most answers.
That was the last one. No, it was the last one. This is the last one.
That's me when I get the toy and
You're the last one. It's literally the one I said. What if my team's just so bad?
You were the one who guessed it.
I'm gonna go ahead and give a prize to Speedy Goose, but also Tropical Snail.
Yay! Woo!
Wait, but they had like more than the people.
No, we won.
Are you guys Tropical Snail?
No, we are.
Oh, you're Tropical Snail? Good job.
We are.
Alright, you guys both get a donut.
Ooh, we get a donut. Have one in your hand.
You're gonna do it.
He's the reason why we lost. Don't trust him.
So friggin' hot. And there was no extra juice here, so no one has to cover it. I'm not saying it is, I'm just telling you why it's really.
Why is everyone doing that?
Yeah, you can play again.
Oh, is this automatic right now?
Yes.
I know!
I
Let's
know.
go. I know this one! I know this one! What the heck?
We should do one. I gotta do it. We should do a quiz on 9/11.
That's a good point. But we'll do it on Sunday.
I don't go on Sunday.
But Sunday's 9/11.
Yeah, but I don't.
I won't be
I
here.
have a soccer game, definitely.
Oh my God.
At least I get to go to Waterworks.
Oh, that's not my hat. Waterworks isn't that good.
The 1.2.
Alright, so I had to do this.
Go to Sacramento.
Ah, hello. Jeez.
Wait, are you going to the red one or the Sacramento one? Yeah, but the Sacramento one is worth it. They're both the same distance.
Alright guys, it is now time. Grab yourself a chair. We are going to do a quick little study on heaven.
Wait a
And then we're
minute.
going to go play games outside. I see pepperoni.
Oh, wait, it's my hand.
That was close. Oh, that was dead on. Got killing some. Why are you a photo shoot?
Wait a second. Oh, wait.
Oh! I hate when that happens. I hate it when that happens. All right.
Ladies, gentlemen, one and all, find a seat. We have a giant tower of chairs over here. Mr. Gavin, and anybody else who's placed their plate of food on the pool table, please kindly remove your food from the pool table. If you do need a place to put your food, we have desks over there you can put down as a table. There are toppers for the pool table to turn the pool table into a table.
Get Micah.
These are options. But an entire IKEA table doesn't cost as much as that green piece of felt. So that's just the way it is. All right. Snack bar, you are closed in 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
What are you doing?
5. Grab a chair, sit down.
They're not literal if I shove this one in my mouth.
I'll take my own with my own 2 hands and my snacks in my hands and my hands in my snacks. There's a chair for anyone who wants it.
Very carefully, and if I heard him correctly, he said take a chair.
Oh gosh, it's scared me. I thought your soda was open.
No, it's not.
I just watched your soda slowly go.
No.
So,
Sit down.
over here. Judah, you clearly don't even know what chairs are.
You said take a chair and sit down. I'm just following your orders.
Yeah, in the chair.
Oh!
Middle schoolers, find a seat over here.
Are you chairs? Yeah.
Ah,
Don't do it.
the flaw in my argument.
I don't trust anyone, but I trust the
Gavin and
least.
Emily, find a place to sit nearby.
I
You can
won't.
actually read what's on screen.
You said the new heaven and the new earth.
Well, yeah, it's not gonna sit up.
Guys are weird.
When you say verbal.
Alright. You guys ready?
No!
Many of you asked about angels and about heaven. So tonight, we're going to talk about heaven first, and then in a little bit, we're going to talk about angels. I figured if we don't talk about heaven, we're going to end up with a lot of questions when it comes to angels. Once we have a clear understanding of heaven, that'll be a little bit easier to move through all the content on angels. Yes, Judah?
I have a question.
What is your question,
I
Judah?
don't have one.
Why did you raise your hand, Judah?
I actually don't know.
I have more questions. Yes, Elliot? Have you recently been out of the country?
No.
You just a collector?
I just stole it from my mom.
Obviously, Daniel.
That's a really cool story, Elliot. Way to be proud of your thievery. Snack bar, you are closed! Alright, Aiden, Emily, Clyde? Come find a seat. You have a cup, great. Come find a seat. Come find a seat. Also come find a seat.
What are we doing? Are we playing another game? What is it called? New York?
Alright guys, one quick second.
I lost, okay? It's amazing that I know them. Does this look like a phone to you? Does this look like a... Okay, it's shaped like a frog? Whoa, that's actually kind of cool. Let's do it.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are currently living on...
Stop on it. Ow.
Moses, what are we living on?
I'm Ben 10.
That's amazing. What are we living on, Moses?
We're living on the universe.
On the universe? No, I think we're living off the universe.
The world. The world.
The world, the earth. So, we had a bunch of people ask in the topic night poll about heaven, several things about heaven, but mostly just generically heaven. And because the Bible talks about heaven less than it talks about hell, it is actually a little tricky to answer the generic tell me everything about heaven? Yes.
I don't think that's true.
You don't think that's true?
Go on.
In what sense?
But it tells more about heaven than hell.
The kingdom of heaven, yes. So, what do you mean by that?
He's leaving you in the dark.
Are you talking about the specific realm?
Well, okay, so generally speaking, when someone asks about heaven, what are they asking about?
Oh, your mom. It's the best your mom.
And maybe I'm wrong, and that's kind of the point. That's why we're going to go through the whole thing. So, here we go. You guys ready? I'm going to show you the timeline. Because heaven is not just a place, it's also a time. And that's kind of a big deal. So here we go. Here's the timeline. There it is. Yes, Caitlin. You may.
Ask your mother.
No, don't ask.
Don't ask her.
Moses.
Yes,
Alan, Patrick.
Didn't we do this last time?
What's
It's
she
amazing. But,
What's she all?
yes.
Remember the word shield.
What shield?
It's like She-Hulk, but without the Hulk.
Oh. Shield.
Ha!
Oh, it is. It's more like she.
I agree, Micah.
Why is there a piece of pasta in the stool?
Sorry guys, I was trying to do a surprise for Emily tonight, and it's taking more time than I thought. What are you doing, Judah? That's my wife.
There's a Rubik's Cube in there.
Rubik's Cube.
Okay, so here's the Gigantor timeline, and generally speaking, it's divvied up into sections based on things that happen. Micah, get your own chair.
Yeah, get your own chair.
That's not a chair.
Did you just accuse Micah of being an own chair? Yes.
A known chair.
Oh no.
Everybody knows
Not
Micah
being a
is-
chair.
No, we don't. All right, here we go.
Is a chair?
So we're going to start at the
Not
beginning.
yet.
Notice though, we are not currently in the beginning. We are somewhere around the middle, a little to the left of middle. But we're going to start at the beginning. So let's go all the way back. In the very, very beginning, the earliest pieces of time, whoopsie doodle,
What is
the earliest pieces of time, there's just heaven. No earth, no universe as you know it, no matter in time and space.
I thought that was just God.
It's not
We're getting there,
Shiloh.
we're getting there, okay? We get this from John chapter 1. It says, in the beginning the Word was, the Word already existed. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He existed in the beginning with God. Question or comment? I'm done. He raised his hand. Listen. Sorry, one more time. We're getting there, but just focus on for a moment.
No,
Yes.
be quiet.
That's I think the exact point of what I said was no. As far as we can tell, no. If it's made of matter, then it's a different kind of matter, because then right after, there's only heaven and there's no universe with matter in it. Then he goes ahead and makes the universe with matter in it. So,
But does it matter?
terrible pun. Yes, Caitlin.
Are you saying that heaven existed like before he created earth? Because it was like the Bible said in the beginning, God created heavens and earth.
Yes, absolutely.
Are you saying that heaven was more
It
than that?
depends on your definition of heaven.
Heaven is heaven.
Depends on your definition of heaven. So, there are some verses in the Bible where it uses heavens, and you can tell from the context, it is 100% talking about the sky. It is not talking about heaven like we mean it in English at all. There are times where you can read the Bible and it says heavens, and you can 100% tell from the context it's talking about the place where the planets are flying. And what it means is space. And the reason it does that is because it was written in ancient Hebrew. And in ancient Hebrew, they had no spaceships. They didn't even have hot air balloons. So they reuse some words with context to mean more than one thing. So when he says, I created the heavens and the earth, it is an interesting question. What did he create when he did that? Which heavens? Does that make sense?
Earth
Which
is heaven.
heavens? So then you have another definition you need to keep in mind, which is sometimes, theologically, when we're talking about heaven, we don't mean a specific place like here or there. We mean wherever God is. In spirit, in full, wherever he fully exists spiritually,
But if God is omnipresent,
that place would be heaven. Does that kind of make sense? And there's a point where he says, I'm going to come be with you guys in the future. There's points during the Old Testament where you can say, like, oh, look, there he is, God the Father, dwelling amongst the Israelites. But a lot of the time he's not. So where does he go? There's also moments where it talks about, like in Job, which recounts to you what is going on with God in heaven, with the angels, with Satan. There's times where it says, I threw you from heaven to earth. So does he mean like a meteorite, like I lobbed you from around Venus so over to Earth? Or does he mean I kicked you out of my heavenly abode, my spiritual realm, to the physical? So definitionally, it matters, because otherwise there's no real way to talk about it. Jeremiah?
Is heaven in those pictures from Jimmy Spider Home telescopic?
Yes. Yes. Exactly what.
Put those grippers away.
You might have to re-say that.
The Jimmy Spider Home telescopic.
Yeah, of course.
I already knew that's what you meant, and yet I couldn't work it out. My brain was not going fast enough. Alright, sorry. What's yours?
So it's not like the consciousness of the universe.
The consciousness of the universe. No, that would mean the universe is implicated in the creation of God, as opposed to God being implicated as the creator of the universe.
Bad question.
If he's just the consciousness of the universe, then that means he arose out of the universe, which still says you don't know where the universe came from. That's a rather large philosophical problem. Because as soon as you define universe, you either can't say it was created from quantum fluctuations, because your definition included the quantum fluctuations,
Why are you guys using big words?
or you have to say that your definition of universe doesn't include the quantum fluctuations, which means you now have to explain the source of the quantum fluctuations. Does that make sense?
What's a
You're left with a paradox either way. Yeah, Willow.
So doesn't
No.
like the Bible say like
That's not right.
Inside of
Omnipresent.
creation.
Omnipresent.
It's tricky. It's very tricky.
Basically,
Okay,
watch
yes,
it.
Judah.
Eat out the bread.
I actually have
Don't
two
worry.
things.
Okay.
One is just like, I didn't actually think it was real that people see stars when they get hurt really badly. It is.
You've recently been hurt enough that you saw stars?
Yes, today. My first time back to jiu-jitsu.
Oh, there you go. You got clocked?
Yeah, really bad.
Oh, man, it hurts. I can see
Don't let
stars
me
just
use
from
a
pushing on
big
my eyeballs like this. But yeah, no, it definitely is a trip when you see them, and it's just like your brain blacked out. It got disconnected from the eyeballs, and your brain's like looking for an image, so it starts turning up the contrast on your optical nerves until it can find something, and there's nothing there, so it just starts blipping every little signal. It's not even a full-on signal, and it's not real. Alright, so this is pre-creation, and then we have the moment of creation.
Woo!
And this is right in John, right after verses 1 and 2, we already read. It says, God created everything through him, and nothing was created except through him. This is referencing Jesus, part of the Trinity. That God the Father, although he is the person with the dream, the person with the idea, the one that invents all of reality, he uses Jesus as what we would call the agent of creation. This would be like saying, I was arrested by the police. And what you don't mean is that every single member of the entire police force came to your house and all put one pair of cuffs on you, so your arms were like cuffed all the way up. And then you were taken to jail, and the whole police squad drove your car. All in there like a clown car, just smashed inside. When you say I was arrested by the police, you mean that yes, the police did sign off on your arrest, it followed their protocols, that's the agency, the group that did it, but at the same time, there's really only like one officer
Not
that
necessarily.
arrests you. Well, like, okay, but there's one putting the cuffs on, there's one driving the car.
That's
There's,
also not true.
how many people can drive a car?
Many.
Plane.
So although God in the Trinity does fall into the category of responsible for creation, they each have a different role. They each have a different role to play in creation. And so John says that Jesus had everything created through him. He was the agent. So boots on the ground, if you will. All right. Now we move on. We've got a heaven, we've got an earth. Creation has occurred. Genesis 1:1, very famous verse. It puts it like this: in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And so then, yes, you do have to fill in the blank here. Which heavens is this heavens? Which heavens is this?
The heavens.
The three heavens.
I would say,
The earth, the
for this
heavens,
verse to
and
make
the
sense,
space.
you would have to create a definition that isn't God's eternal home. Because if he has an eternal home, it's eternal. It doesn't
And it's a home.
get created. Does that make sense?
Ah.
So, definitionally, either his home isn't eternal, and he existed sans place, like no place at all, and then he created one, or this is referencing space. It's referencing all the parts of the universe that are not the earth, and then it says, and the earth. And I think this makes sense when you start to see the rest of creation, and you see the repeated use of the phrase heavens in those subsequent verses. So I think this heavens is not necessarily this heaven. Does that make sense? So likewise, to a certain degree, as we continue to go through the timeline, when we look at this big green word earth, we are actually talking about earth specifically because it's the place where we live, and up until recently there was nowhere else to go in this universe that would kill us. Okay, but we're also including space often as the Bible talks about the earth, because all of the universe is lumped in with us. We're God's focal point in the universe. Yeah.
So my science teacher said that she's a girl.
Okay.
Got him.
Good.
So-
Good point there. Way to go.
She said that she's a girl.
Amazing. All right,
Yes.
Judah, what's yours?
I don't know how, but it just happened.
Words came out of her mouth. You're flummoxed by that.
That's a girl.
This topic
Yes.
is creation.
Not to flex on God or anything.
Oh, yeah.
With
You're
the
not-
right
This is
video
gonna be
game,
good. Yep.
I could create the Earth in 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Took him 7
Have you guys
days.
ever played, what is it called? Something Sandbox.
Yeah.
Universe
World
Sandbox?
of Warcraft.
It's just a
I think that's what it's called.
Warcraft
Yeah, Universe Sandbox. Amazing physics engine. Where you can literally start with a working solar system, and then you can tinker with it. Like, what if the moon was like twice as big? And you just watch what happens.
Oh, yeah,
What if
watch
the
them play.
sun is just like
Dead.
twice as big? It's one of the funnest things to do, is just like rapidly grow things. Like, what if like the Earth was half as big?
I watched a YouTuber erase the sun and they
Watch the whole solar system go on
Yeah.
without it just like shoot off in different directions.
Yeah.
What if,
Oh,
wait,
it's so good.
what the
What
earth
if I
looked like a bull?
Yeah, you can do crazy stuff like that. That one might be a little harder, but you could probably pull it off. Okay, so we've got creation, it exists. The first humans plop onto the earth. They live a very short amount of time as far as we can tell. And then all of a sudden, something else happens. What happens after you? Yes, you got a question or an answer? Question. Go for it. That's a really good question. The Bible actually talks about that, not in Genesis, but it does say that he stretched the universe out. I can't hear Clyde. Sorry, one more time. Well, it's an interesting question, but if I threw a ball, why would it stop?
Gravity.
Correct. Okay, so what if I'm God and I stretch space itself?
Oh.
Well, okay, so follow me on this. What is there to frictionally rub against, to inertially degrade everything?
Oh, a donut.
Does that make sense? Like, what would hold it back?
The sun.
What would push it down? What would keep it from?
The
Does
sun.
that make sense? So you have an infinite source, the God who could do anything he wanted, pulling it out, versus a Big Bang that explodes. Why would the energy source of a Big Bang explain constant acceleration of expansion? 'Cause for the most part, it doesn't. But why would it be a better explanation than an infinite energy source? Does that make sense? If it's constantly expanding at an accelerating pace, not a slowing pace, wouldn't you need constant energy input? In most circumstances. Maybe there's something we don't know about, maybe there's something that would more easily explain it, but without that better explanation, you would need something constantly putting energy in. My point is, God's at least capable of that, whether he said he did it or not. He's capable. The Big Bang, if it happened, it happened once,
The Big Bang.
3 times,
Back
you're
then.
out of there.
and it's not happening anymore. There's nothing to put more energy into the system. So that seems less consistent with physics as we know it than something on the outside of the universe pulling it apart. That seems more consistent with what we know for this.
Like a fire detector.
Nothing like that, in fact. All right, Jeremiah.
Where did the nothing come from?
Sorry, one more time.
I feel so lucky. 900.
Did Adam what? Over 900 years, actually. Before the next thing happened, and then I said, what happened next?
Oh.
Sorry, so I didn't show you what happened next, so it was a bit of a false question.
Got him.
Shield happens next. Right?
That's not what it's pronounced. It's pronounced hell.
No, it's pronounced H-E double hockey.
Gavin, it's shield. Stop. That's what you should. I didn't even say shield.
Shoot the children.
No!
Sure. Wolf lights now.
Oh, sorry. Cool. Anyone know what happened next after creation? Next big event?
Oh,
Huge thing, change everything?
Big Ben.
Me.
Patrick,
I'm gonna go back. People eat bad fruit.
that's pretty close. It's pretty close. Well done. The fall. We call it the fall for short. It's Adam and Eve sinning. God says don't do a thing, and then
Stupid Adam and Eve.
Aiden,
That was not my fault.
go. It's your chair. It's your water. Go get your thingy. Go clean up the water spill. Go. Go. Get off your butt.
H-E-L.
Aiden, get off your butt. Go. You're still on your butt. Aiden. Get off your butt. Get the
Get in your
paper.
butt and get it out of
You're
your
about to lose your donut. Go.
Can I have my donut?
Go.
Ain't
You
no
are so
H-E-L.
romantic.
H-E-L.
Let
H-E-L.
that butt pack.
Just a moldy
Goldfish.
carpet. All right, guys. So the next thing that happens is the fall. Adam and Eve disobey God.
What is shallow?
You will get the answer. Stop asking. All right. They disobey God. Sin enters into the world. The whole creation is cursed from this point on. Aiden, you are stomping the water with a shoe. Good point.
The baby's just getting
Can I give out grades in middle school? Can I do that? Can I grade you guys?
Yes,
What is sending more report cards like from now on?
I always read
Let's
every
read a
single
report card
grade
for
I
Aiden. Aiden uselessly shoved a rubber shoe into the carpet in an attempt to sop water like a child. His inability to understand common things like absorption
He also drank water that was still on the floor.
flummoxed even the dimmest among us. We prescribe remedial courses in housekeeping
It's because he's a
and
pyromaniac.
extra chores.
Because
Alright,
he's a
yes.
pyromaniac.
Can I get a grade? Can you give me a grade?
Yes.
Do I have a good grade?
Not yet. You'll get one at the end of the night. Alright, Clyde,
Okay, so is the sin anything that God does?
Aiden,
basically,
if you attempt
there's one more category
will
though.
not get it back. It will be
Not doing anything he did want you to do. Yeah, no, we sum those two up. We say anything against God's will. Because he can have a negative will. I don't want that. He can have a positive will. I do want that. So anything that goes against his will. All right, so they go against his will. Sin enters the world. The whole world is cursed. God warns them in advance, if you go against this, death is what is going to follow. And death is an interesting word. Death is not on the screen, but we kind of have to define it. What is death?
Oh.
Clyde?
When somebody dies.
When your heart stops. No.
It's not so easy to define, is it? Okay, so you can't use die in the definition of death, because that's just the verb of the word.
Your heart
Yes.
stops.
You got another one?
When somebody's brain can't
Someone is
anymore and
no
Okay,
longer
so
with
here's a
us.
good question for you. You ready? Ready?
happened to
Okay. What about trees?
Got him. Give him trees.
trees.
Or
When do
dreams.
trees die?
Oh, I know.
When they're not
You won't
trees.
die.
When they're cut down.
Right, but how would you measure it?
Measure.
Like you said for humans, let's say. I'm guessing you were making the case for humans. When our brain functions to see, or ceases to function, we're dead. What about a tree?
What about dinosaurs?
When their heart stops.
Because I kid you not, I've seen trees that fell over, washed downstream, and rerouted themselves. So even cutting down a tree doesn't necessarily tell you that the tree's dead, right? There's something else going on here.
Your heart's alive.
Defining life is pretty tricky. Defining death is even more tricky. Yes, Willow.
Trees die when the roots die.
They can make new roots, I kid you not.
Got him.
Oh, but like when like the roots like are dead. Most times.
So when it's dead, then it dies? Not a great definition. We're moving along, Micah. There's so many hands raised. What are you doing? What? Soul is the body. Okay, so specifically regarding humans, we could say soul leaving the body. We could say that. Okay. Grace.
What if the roots come out with the tree and start floating that tree?
That's possible. You can cut a tree out of the roots and have the roots grow a new sapling out of the stump and have the tree grow some new roots if it's in a wet enough environment. You can have two trees from cutting the tree down.
Like, what if the whole tree just fell over?
Then it probably would actually live for quite a while like that. Yeah, Jeremiah. Self-regulation ceases. I like that. That is a good way to put it.
I'm in biology class.
They've actually had to figure this one out.
What do you have a cake pop?
Daniel!
Yeah.
What do you have a cake pop? Molly, same thing.
Dr. Daniel!
So, when someone takes too much drugs and their body dies,
That's called
Just use die in the definition for
fine.
death.
When someone
Someone
occurs
is
dead,
Gavin!
Someone is no longer
my
with
leg is
No longer with us. I like that
No, you
definition.
don't.
I do. I like that definition. Have you guys ever heard someone use dead to me?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a phrase. It's so weird. It literally means they aren't dead. Did you ever think about that?
No.
The phrase, the idiom, dead to me, implies they're not dead to everyone else. Isn't that strange? And so dead, or death,
Or dead.
can actually have meanings that don't mean ceasing self-regulation. Although in plant life, animal life, other lesser organic forms, it does typically go with that definition. That's usually how we look at it. But for people, it is very different. I have a question for you guys. Have you guys ever had someone move away? And like you haven't seen them since?
I'm moving away.
You guys have had friends move away, family move away?
What are you doing?
That's
My
a good
sister!
question. Your sister,
Kim Possible.
well, she's not that far, right? She's like just up the hill.
Yeah, she's got me.
It's not that bad.
But I was here to
Alright, so, but she's not dead to you, right?
She is. My dad said that.
She got married. The end. I don't want to speak her name. No, so there's so many other ways to look at death. It's a really weird question, but if someone you knew really well moved to North Korea and you lived the rest of your life and never heard from them ever again,
Oh, that's happened.
ever again, and one day you die, and one day they die, but you guys are both alive for most of your lives, but you never spoke to each
How
other.
would you not be alive for
You
most
never,
of your life?
well, he's alive for most of yours, you're alive for most of his. That's what I meant.
But that's not.
Like one of you doesn't die early. You both live a nice long life.
Then how could you each be?
Because you're not going to die on the same day. That'd be weird, and it's different hypothetical altogether.
But-
My point was, they're not actually dead, but for all intents and purposes, in your life, they are.
Not necessarily.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you don't cross paths with them, and no one you know crosses paths with anyone they know, they might as well be dead. It's not going to change your life in any way if they
Yes,
were.
it is.
It's really not.
Aiden.
Well, but you wouldn't even know. That's my point. If you don't cross
That
paths
was
with anyone they
pretty
know, and they don't cross paths with anyone you know, you would never even find out what the day they die is.
Repeat.
I said Tommy down the street's dead.
I picked North Korea for a reason. There's an information blackout when you go to North
See,
Korea.
it doesn't affect your life.
Inside that country. It's all secret.
You don't even know them.
Other countries, you're right. It
Wait,
might be
down what
news or
street?
something. But the point is,
Oh,
death really doesn't have a fixed definition with humans. We use it in different ways at different times. We kind of pick and choose our definitions as we go. And when God said to Adam and
you
Eve,
guys are all dead.
the day you disobey me, you're going to die, he meant something really specific. You see, prior to that moment, prior to the fall, did you notice this wasn't on the screen?
No.
This wasn't here before. So go back before the fall, there's just the two places. There's with God spiritually, and there's on the earth physically. That's it. And then, suddenly after the fall, there's a third location. There's somewhere you could go that's not with God spiritually or on the earth physically. And Adam and Eve really kind of got the best of both worlds because God was, shh, don't shout things out, raise your hand. Shh, don't shout things out, raise your hand. You're still shouting things out. Don't shout things out, raise your hand. So, I think my train of thought died.
Your train of thought is dead to me.
By what definition?
I'll let you guys figure it out. Alright, so there's a third place opened up now, and it's somewhere to go that is apart from the physical earth, and it's apart from God in heaven.
She's late.
Sheol. She's not late. Well, I mean, she was a little bit late, but now she's not late. She got here a while back.
I've always been here.
Always, she says.
Always. Liar! That's a lie. You go to hell for that.
Maybe she just means on this earth, Aiden.
Actually, when I get here, I start a timer to wait for everyone to get here.
You haven't always been here.
That's
I
a weird.
3 seconds.
That's super weird.
No,
Actually,
actually.
it's super creepy. Alright, so, this third place is opened up. Now, here's how the Old Testament talks about Sheol. You guys ready? Here's a verse about Sheol. This phrase right here, among the dead, is in the Old Hebrew, Sheol. Okay? So, for you will not leave my soul among the dead or allow your Holy One to rot in the grave. You will show me the way of life, granting me the joy of your presence and the pleasures of living with you forever. Psalm 16, 10 through 11. Literally, this psalm is saying, I will not stay here forever. Someday, I will be here. But you don't start out here. You start out here. So even in the Old Testament, we have some people who really got it, and they understood that when they died, they'd go here, but not forever. At some point, they'd get a chance to go here. Okay. Just have to outline that first. Now, questions. Chris. It includes Abraham's bosom. It is not only Abraham's bosom. In case you guys are wondering, there's like literally one place in the whole Bible that says Abraham's bosom. It's in Luke. It's a nickname. It's not actually like, I mean, at least I don't think it is. Not on a big signpost as you enter or something. Yeah.
Is someone dying?
Kind of. I don't want to say no, because in some circumstances that is correct. In other circumstances that is not correct. And so I want to clarify.
In some circumstances today, there's still no one.
Ooh, okay, that's a great question. That's exactly what we're covering. So I'm not going to spoil that one. I want to go in order. But that is a perfect question. Okay, so first off, Sheol is a waiting place. It is not the permanent home of anyone. No one goes to Sheol and stays there permanently. Okay? So it is a temporary place. And in the Old Hebrew, sometimes they talk about it very much as a place for your soul, and other times they use it as an idiom to mean a phrase. So like, Bob's your uncle, or shaving a haircut, or liar, liar, pants on fire. Okay? These are idioms. All right, so
She said.
sometimes they would use it as an idiom. Aiden, find your seat, please. The one with all the water under it. That one.
Someone hold my
As an idiom, literally just for where someone's buried. Like literally where a body goes. Like physically in the ground. Yeah.
Mentally in the ground.
Yeah. It's not the hypothetical, by the way, Willow. Aiden, game check. Go on. Game check. Yes.
Technically,
It's
you
not a
only said
complicated
find
formula.
it. You never said
Willow?
get in it. You telling me a story about old people who died? No, we're moving on. We're moving on. Dylan, what's your question?
What's your question? What was the orange one called?
She.
Cheryl.
Old.
Okay, was that like
Sheol.
was that like a lobby?
A lobby,
Like
yes.
a lobby to get to that lobby?
The Hobby Lobby.
We're answering that right now as we speak. But it's not a hard yes or a hard no, and I wouldn't call it a lobby. But in the sense of you wait and it's temporary, Yes. At least in that sense. But not necessarily waiting only for heaven. You're waiting for
Judgment.
whatever your destination is. Does that make sense? You could exit Sheol. Everyone gets to exit Sheol someday. But where you go from there is not fixed on the fact that you went to Sheol. Does that make sense? That's not, like, going to Sheol isn't a guarantee of going to hell or a guarantee of going to heaven. Going to Sheol is just literally what had to happen for a time. Okay, yes, Clark.
Okay, so, do you have to like take a test or something?
Good question. No. It's interesting-er than that. You already took the test before you arrived. And in Sheol, you're waiting for the answers to be shown on how you did on the test. You took the test here. Does that make sense? You took the test here, you went there to find out what the results were. Later, when you leave Sheol, you find out the results.
Please.
Alright, Patrick.
Back to the death.
Yes. You want to define death for me.
Alright. What happens if you're the Terminator and then just obliterate a tree? The inside, everything.
Okay, great. Awesome. Judah, what's up?
I did it. I killed a tree.
I thought
You killed a tree. You murdered it.
judged at Sheol, you know, like in the judgment room.
I wish Logan was
Just timeline-wise, no, not in Sheol. You're not imagining something that won't happen. You're just misplacing the time and place. You know what I'm saying? It's just not Sheol. But yeah,
You're waiting to be
yeah. It's more like the lobby to the courthouse. Is the lobby to the
yes.
So, okay, we're gonna move on. The fall happened. This was Old Testament. Then we get to something more New Testament.
Whoa!
Yes, Jeremiah.
They just like play cannonball run to on repeat in Sheol.
Actually, I think they played the Ten Commandments.
But it's
Oh, that's true. That's true. All right.
you gotta be more here too.
All right, now, I understand that some of you may be more well-versed than others in general Christian theology, but as it turns out, not all Christians agree on this point, and I totally understand why. If you review every single verse on this, which is like 3, and then if you count the Old Testament Psalms, maybe 5, and that's it, it's not the most important doctrine in the world. But I feel like if you take it out, there's more logical contradictions than if you leave it in, so I leave it in. Yes?
Technically,
Yes? Well, fair enough. So, because it is in the Apostles' Creed, the belief does go back quite a ways. Peter seems to be interjecting weird points that don't mean anything, but this isn't what it means. Like, illogically placed in his paragraphs. And then, yeah, Psalms is weird, because then suddenly Psalms written by David that are usually attributed to Christ are attributing things that he didn't do. And that's weird too. So, yeah, you can get around this one actually being real, but I think it makes more logical sense if this actually happened. So, the doctrine goes like this. Jesus dies on the cross. He's buried for 3 days. His physical body is buried for 3 days. During those 3 days, he goes to Sheol and does 2 things while he's in Sheol. Number 1, he preaches to the people in Sheol, but not in the preachy sense, like a pastor who's teaching. It seems like in chapter 3, the way that the paragraph is structured, not just verse 19, but the surrounding verses, is that he goes and he talks to fallen angels in the pit and unbelieving dead people who are destined to go to hell someday, and he tells them all about his triumph over sin and death. That effectively, like, I won. God's plan worked. And to prove it to you, I'm going to take all the people here in Sheol that had faith to heaven. Here we go. So, not half and half like a literal I head counted, but like half of Sheol is still there. Those people still there waiting for future judgment, and the other half he took with him up to heaven. Wait. Raise your hand is not the only thing to do, Grace. You wait also for the calling on the hand, okay? Wait, because I got to finish the thought or it's never coming back. So the first half, he goes and he preaches to the people who are destined for hell. The second half, he goes to the people who are destined for heaven, and he delivers them. He brings them to heaven. We have a few Old Testament passages that talk about him freeing the captives. And captives is a weird word. It doesn't get used super duper often. Its best interpretation is of this event. So after the resurrection, that would mean part of Sheol, that gets its nickname one time in Luke, Abraham's bosom, is empty. No one ever goes there again. It's just vacant. There's the place to go if you arrived in Sheol and you already placed your faith in God. Okay, you gotta wait. Did you notice all the other people waiting? You gotta wait.
Daniel, I have a question.
All right, so verse 6 of chapter 4 follows shortly after the one we just read. It says, the good news has even been preached to the dead, so that after they have been judged for what they have done in this life, their spirits will live with God. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay, essentially people who died in faith pre-Jesus dying on the cross could not possibly have heard the whole gospel, unless some prophet told it to him in advance. So Jesus goes himself, and he delivers the full gospel to those who died in faith, kind of completing their faith in a sense. They didn't get a full shot, but they had faith before they died. Jesus completes it for them. Okay, Clyde. That, right there. How did you figure that one out? It's not there, right? Yeah, you're getting it. You're getting it. I love it. Yeah, it doesn't even exist. Who's going to go there? It's just going to be a big empty spot. Nothing there. So yeah, as far as we can tell, not even created yet. Aiden.
Thank you.
Everyone else is waiting too. It's not just you, Aiden.
I put my hands up for like.
I've been waiting
Oh, okay. Well, then I probably just didn't
for
write it.
That's why I
Unless
moved
it's
up
good.
closer.
Unless it's good.
That's why I moved up closer, and you still told me to go back.
Why would flagrant disobedience and attention drawing cause me to call on you?
Okay, I'll
Okay.
It clearly doesn't work.
I just wanted to feel better.
Do you need to go out the wall and have a talk with one of you? Oh, I wasn't sure. It seemed like you needed attention.
So, my question is, you said, okay, does the pit mean like the Fortnite map, or does it mean like a different thing?
Yes, Grace!
No, it's actually.
What does Sheol look like?
Oh, good
Oh,
question.
why would you ask him?
So we only get descriptions out of Jesus, and only that one time in Luke. Everything else, as far as I know, there's no real like visual description, and he only gives us this tiny little bit. He doesn't like paint a picture for you with his words. He basically just says there's one side over here, and one side over there. There's a giant chasm in the middle that no one can cross.
What color?
That's all. That's all he says.
It's also terrible.
It's terrible. Everyone there's thirsty. It's hot. There's some kind of flame. Not clear
Fire.
what kind exactly.
You're in the
Because
core of
whoever
the
was
sun.
complaining about the flames wasn't dying from the flames. It's not like the typical fire we're used to.
Wait a minute. So, God eventually take everyone from hell at the end.
Not hell, Sheol. Take them from Sheol to judgment. That makes sense.
So, there's still being punished.
There's still awaiting judgment at this point. The word punishment is the wrong word, and it's a weird technicality, but the Bible's really specifically its
I
words.
literally have been.
So punishment is something that follows judgment. Punishment is something like a parent saying, "Aha! I've caught you, and now I will punish you like this." Does that make sense? You could, pre-punishment, know that you've done a bad thing and that you're probably going to get caught, and you could sit there and stew and feel guilt and hate what you've done, and you're biting your nails just like, oh my gosh, they're going to notice any minute, they're going to notice any minute. Or, my absolute favorite, okay, you're caught, but no punishment till Dad gets home. When Dad gets home, then we'll decide what your punishment is. So, that kind of a thing. That's essentially what's happening in Sheol. It is the nail-biting experience of, I know my punishment will come, I know my judgment will come, I know all that's down the road. Sheol isn't even the punishment.
So, Daniel, I have a really good question.
Yeah.
So, do like the Christians that don't do very good at Christianing go there?
No.
Yoo!
I know. Okay. Qualifier. When you say don't do really good at Christianing, what I mean is
Like, very
they are
lazy,
actually a
very
Christian.
lazy.
They still sin. They don't go to Sheol. On the other hand, someone who's like, yeah, I'm a Christian, duh, but they're not a Christian, they're just saying it, then yeah, they're definitely going to Sheol. Right? That's fine. Most of us are pretty bad at doing exactly what God wants all of the time. That's not the condition you will or won't go to Sheol. It's, are you actually a follower of Christ? Have you actually put your faith in him? Is he actually your Lord and Savior? That's the condition. Not, are you good at it?
Are you good at it?
Does that make sense?
So how do people go to Sheol in the first place?
They die.
No faith. Or faith in the wrong thing.
Or unfaith.
Or unfaith.
Do babies go here? Yes.
Good question again.
If a baby
Would
murders
you-
somebody,
No.
Would you be awaiting judgment if you haven't done anything?
Sorry.
wrong?
I see it.
Unless you pushed someone off a cliff and you knew you did.
Deeper conversation, but I'll just leave you with this. Okay?
Yeah.
There is a difference between guilt,
and
right?
not knowing that.
And built.
What was the other word I was trying to think
Can I see it?
Nope.
Yeah, discipline.
of? No, there's obviously a difference between those because we're not that close. Jeremiah, what's yours? I'll think of it in a second.
So you don't interpret it as saying that Jesus preached to people who strive without belief or knowledge of God.
Incorrect.
Well, if you go look at chapter 3, really look at the context surrounding the verse, not the verse itself.
Shut up.
It looks more, and again, you can check with different translators. Some of them go the other way, so obviously some of them believe that way. It's more of the original doctrine in the sense of like the 800s AD, that he went and preached to try and turn people from hell, like to literally save them from, they were already destined to go to hell. But if you go back a little further, it doesn't get that specific.
It does.
And some of the translators who are looking at this through more modern lenses, so like we found more manuscripts using more use of these words, they're actually falling on the side of he is making a proclamation, which doesn't necessarily involve waiting for a decision on their part. Does that make sense? There's a difference between a notification in the sense of I've gone to proclaim and like an apologetic sense, like I'm trying to win you over. I'm trying to convince you. And it doesn't seem like he's trying to win people over and convince them. It seems like he is notifying. Does that make sense? The other thing is, most of the translators now are thinking that maybe chapter 3 is actually talking about fallen angels specifically because of all the references to Noah. And in chapter 4, it's moved on. And so that essentially he had nothing to say in that viewpoint. I don't necessarily take that viewpoint, but that seems to be the way it's going now consensus-wise. That chapter 3 is fallen angels, chapter 4 is those who died with faith. And he leaves out mention, in at least First Peter, of those who died without faith. Humans without faith. So, I don't know. There's a lot of places you could fall in this, and I don't think it matters terribly much. I'm trying to figure out linguistically what makes the most sense, and then also doctrinally what gives you the least holes. Like, if you take the full viewpoint of all, like, the 3 major camps, which one has the least logical leaps in it, which one has the least, well, wait, what about this, then? In it. And him not going there at all, I think, is the worst case. I think that's the one with the most holes in it, the most leaps in it. Like, he never even visited Sheol for any reason. I think that one is the most, like, confusing based on the text. But yeah, I could be swayed. New evidence, evidence of the word, use of the word, things like that. I'm not dead set on this. Yes, Willow.
So it's kind of
Sorry.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this goes along with grace. Okay, so there's a slight difference here. Slight difference. Okay, so this is going to answer Grace's and Willow's as best I can in one go. So babies, right?
Babies are good.
Babies are great. Okay,
Oh my God.
love babies. Babies will try to claw your eyes out. Babies will poop on your leg as soon as they'll poop in a diaper. They don't care. They don't care. And so in the one sense, babies are not perfect. But on the other hand, don't frame on me just yet. Okay. On the other hand, babies don't know what wrong and right even is. So, they're innocent.
Yeah, even R. Grammar.
Oh, good point. I think of wrong as a singular unit. My brain just twisted that way. I think of a lot of pairs and groupings as singular units. So, in one sense, they are doing things that are objectively wrong, like you shouldn't claw someone's eyes out, you shouldn't just poop all over the floor, but on the other hand, they're still innocent. They're still innocent. So, in one sense, you can say Jesus was the only one who was ever perfect, who lived a perfect life, because babies didn't live a whole life. Right? They didn't live a perfect life. They still clawed at things and pooped on stuff. So I don't think there's a difference in what will happen to them, whether you think I'm saying what I'm saying or you want me to say. I think they're going to heaven either way because they're innocent. That's what I'm saying. They're innocent. But that's fundamentally different from what Jesus was. Does that make sense? It's not as though you could pin a baby to a cross and then be like, aha, perfect being who died for the sins of all. No, you're just a mad person. You killed a baby erroneously. Like, why are you doing that? Jesus went to the cross of his own free will. He had already lived in a complete life, and it was perfect, and he was God. So a lot of things completely different from a baby dying a day old. Totally different. On the other hand, yeah, baby dying a day old, they're innocent. What reason would God have to punish them? Or even make them sit in Sheol, crying and kicking and screaming until the end?
What about
That
Hitler
doesn't make
as
any
a
sense.
baby?
Doesn't make any sense.
Hitler is a baby.
Second question. For now.
Yeah.
For now.
But what about like when it is it like T-shirts?
So, weird question, and this is one I don't think the Bible gives you straight up answer to. Would you say, when you get to heaven, you died at, say, age 45, okay? And then, you know, your mom dies at 85, and you both get to heaven, you're there at some point together. I don't know your age difference, I don't know how that's going to shake out, but like, you're there, one of you lived to 45, one of you lived to 85. Do you think, and I don't actually know the answer to this, not conclusively, not like for sure, do you think your spirit is 40 years younger? Knowledge is probably the wrong word. I would say for knowledge, yeah, there's got to be a knowledge difference because you live different lives, you have different existences. But a baby, for the most part, is different from you and me because their brain, which is their biology, it's their physiology, hasn't fully developed yet. I don't think that applies to spirits the same. I know you can grow in spiritual things. I know you can mature spiritually, but it's not, I don't think, like a body. I don't think spirits are put in your body by God at some sort of infant state where your spirit is a day old and your spirit is kicking around going, because then you're literally in heaven for, what, thousands of years? Just like baby talking. I hope that's not true. Now again, like I said, I don't have a for sure answer. There's no verse that just like tells you flat out how this works. But I don't want that to be true. And I don't think it's true, but again, I don't have a clear cut answer on that.
Hey Daniel?
Yes,
When
Grace.
when everyone gets to heaven, you know, was Jesus 12 when he died?
Jesus was not 12 when he died.
33.
He was 30 something. Who?
30.
I hear that it'll be the same age as Jesus when he died.
It's a good point. I think age is a little less important
And I have
in your resurrected body, so I'm not sure it really matters. But I think you're going to be fully developed, whatever age God picks to set us all at. It kind of doesn't matter to me. As long as we're eternal and God picked it, I'm cool. I don't even care if I'm like 80. It doesn't bother me.
Daniel.
Yes, Grace.
So, what if the devil, controls you with his evil spirit and you're trying to do what's
Good question. Very good question. Sheol. But good question. Okay, so first off, control by a demon, or even Satan, of a human. I was following. Satan or demon possessing someone. It happens, generally speaking, when a human opens the door to that. And they can do it several ways. But the Bible's also really clear that God is so much more powerful than Satan, so much more powerful than any demon, that when you have the Holy Spirit dwelling in you, that's not going to happen
I mean,
anymore.
not like the Luigi board.
Sure.
It goes into you when you're doing your normal Christian stuff.
Right, so listen to my words one more time, because I tried to answer this, I'm not sure you caught it. If you're filled with the Holy Spirit of God, He can't. Does that make sense? So it's a hypothetical that really doesn't have a good answer. If Satan possessed you and made you sin, would God hold you accountable?
Yes.
Kind of. Have you guys ever heard of the laws about drunk driving?
Yes.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, don't do it.
I mean, actually, no.
Yeah, don't do it. Okay.
A drunk
Good summary. Well done, Micah. Round of applause for Micah. Don't do it.
Yeah!
Okay. Now, if you go out and you drunk drive anyways because you're dumb, and you kill a person, do you get sent to jail or given the death penalty for murder
Manslaughter.
or manslaughter? Why?
Manslaughter. Because you didn't.
Manslaughter means, oops, I slipped and killed a person. Like, oops, he's dead now. Murder means I hated him, so I killed him.
Or I
That's a
hate
different
everyone
crime.
and I want to
That's a
kill
different
them,
crime.
so I have to
Like, I'm just good at soccer. I didn't know he had a neck injury. That's manslaughter, right? Does it get my drift here? Okay, so why is it different if you drunk drive and then you kill someone?
That'd be drunk and killing.
Because it's actually on purpose. Because
The
you
one is on purpose, one is not. So, this is where it gets weird. Some judges, some courtrooms, you would be convicted because you made the choice to drink. Even though driving around drunk like an idiot is really hard to stop once you are drunk. And you could say, he didn't know what he was doing. He was drunk. You could try to make that case. It's not like someone made you drink. Is that, well, okay, but you would have to try and prove that too, you're right. Maybe someone did, that's weird. So, you made that choice, we can hold you fully accountable for that choice. So, here's my point, Grace. If you did something horrible and awful and you were possessed by a demon, I don't think God's going to hold you to account for what the demon did, because I think in that instance it's what the demon did. But I think He can hold you accountable if you opened a door and invited a demon into your life. So let me paint you a picture. The Bible says taking mind-altering drugs is opening the door to demons. Playing with a Ouija board, opening the door to demons. Worshiping gods that don't exist, opening the door to demons.
Oh, wait.
You are putting a whole bunch of faith into something that really doesn't have a spirit on its own. And the demons are just, roving around going, "Ooh, look, a dummy. I could do something with that dummy."
I'm raising my hand.
Does that make sense?
I'm raising
So,
my hand.
At that point, when you take the drug, at that point when you play with the Ouija board, at that point when you worship a God that doesn't exist, you made a choice. You can absolutely be held accountable for that choice. Whether or not He holds you accountable for whatever else the demon decides to do, I'm not God. I'm not going to make a clear-cut judgment on it. That's up to Him. It really is different, Grace, when I say something like mind-altering drug. Does that make sense? I took vitamin C this morning.
Me too.
It was a high dose of vitamin C.
Overdosing is
But I basically felt the same before and after. No real difference, so I wouldn't count that as mind-altering. Okay, so that's my defining line. If you can still make your own decisions, that is what you get. All right, moving on. Clock.
I still have one.
You've had the last 4 questions.
No, this is the last question.
But I'm moving on to clock. I'm sorry.
Moving on.
Sorry, what was that?
So what do you do when you're in?
I can't answer that yet. We're not even there yet. Because we're still here.
Jaden,
No, I've got some answers for that, but we're going to talk about it later. Okay, move on to the timeline. Alright, this was all present tense. Look one more time at the timeline. We're not even halfway through.
Can we take a
There's a
break?
lot of future timeline.
Can we take a break?
Yeah, you can have a break.
Well, let's go!
What's up, Charlie?
Can we go outside?
So you don't think that, do you think that Jesus clawed at people and pooped on things?
Yeah.
I'm going to pretend he didn't, and he can prove me wrong. If he wants to tell me otherwise, he can. I'm going to pretend that Jesus baby pooped in a toilet, and his parents were like, dude, where did we get a toilet? That's what I'm going to pretend. Okay?
Daniel.
Yes.
So, you know,
My Lord and Savior had manners. Hey, get me wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. Sorry, Alan, what was yours?
Alright, so manslaughter is when somebody's accidentally killed.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's roughly the definition.
My aunt's a lawyer.
So, have you seen the red fern, where the red fern grows?
Maybe once. I don't remember it well.
Alright, but kids are on an axe on accident.
Oh, okay. Triple dollars. Yeah.
Yeah, so like that's,
Yeah, I think in most states in our country, if you can prove criminal negligence, then you can go back to murder, even though you didn't intentionally kill them. Criminal negligence would be like, whoops, I've spilled all this oil on the floor, and oh no, these jumper cables fell out of my hands into this pool of water, and it's still hooked up to the battery on the other end.
gosh, matches
And all these matches, what are all these matches doing lying around? You know what? I'm hungry though, so I'm gonna go get lunch. I'll clean this up. I'll clean this up later. And you just leave. Also, you're like the janitor in a school. It's like this is out of school grounds. And like some kid stumbles in the room and goes, whoa, 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 and slips on the oil and tumbles into the matchbox, and the match is all light, lights the oil on fire, and he falls in the puddle, and the car battery shocks, and he falls over in the fire.
Manslaughter.
And then it's like, well, it was an accident. But also, what dummy left a pool of oil next to matches next to a car battery next to a pool of water? That's a pretty big dummy. So you can try and prove criminal negligence. Like, you're an idiot. Why did you do that? That's just the dumbest thing I've ever done.
That's so
I just, you know, I collect hand grenades. I like to leave them lying around my house. That's just what I do. You know? I feel like you can go for criminal negligence.
That's just your thing.
That's just my thing. It's just who I am.
Yeah, you
know.
go, girl.
Yes. No. I don't even know how to obtain the hand grenade, let alone collect them.
Oh, those are illegal.
Probably. I've never looked into it, so I couldn't say. Yeah, Emily. You know they're illegal.
I don't. So then you could select them. Actually,
That's a good point. Alright guys, let's whiz through the end of the timeline here. So, tribulation, future event, Revelation talks about it in droves. Tons of chapters on the tribulation. Here's a verse from the very beginning of the tribulation in Revelation, chapter 4. It says, this is like basically in heaven, it's talking about at this point. Whenever the living beings give glory and honor and thanks to the one sitting on the throne, the one who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down and worship the one sitting on the throne, the one who lives forever and ever. So this is like a recurring thing that just happens in heaven. There's an ongoing choir performance from these like quasi-angel beings that they just call the living beings. And they're so hard to describe. They're the ones you guys have seen ridiculous pictures of. They're the ones that like I have a t-shirt of with like 4 faces, covered in eyeballs, floating rings around them, multiple sets of wings, shining feet, just like, it's just the most weird thing you've ever heard of.
Actually.
It's pretty up there, okay? Alright, now after this, a bit later, and you can debate till the cows come home the exact amount of days and months and all that jazz, but that's really irrelevant because we're just talking about heaven, earth, Sheol, and now the lake of fire.
like a fire.
The lake of fire. We've zipped all the way from Revelation 4 down to Revelation 19, and we get our first mention of the lake of fire. It's hell. This is the hell we usually think of when we say hell.
Did you look it?
We're usually talking about when someone says hell is the lake of fire. But here's the thing. Clyde spotted it. It doesn't even exist until Revelation 19. This is a 22 chapter book. It's the last chapter, it's the last book in the whole Bible. It's future tense at this point. And it's not until chapter 19 that we get to see the lake of fire in its existent form. Now it is mentioned previously by Jesus, but the way he mentions it is future tense. So, yeah.
I got eaten by that, so.
Yeah.
Patrick Daniel.
And so it says that right now that we live just
Yeah, basically.
What about the lollipop right now?
Yeah, in a simple sense, yeah.
and
Unless you die with faith in Jesus Christ, then you get to skip Sheol now. Now that he's died and rose again, no person who dies in faith goes to Sheol. They go straight to heaven, which is pretty cool.
okay, I have another question.
Okay.
Will Ned from the Simpsons get to heaven?
Oh, I'd have to review the canon of what Ned believes, what he said. I used to watch The Simpsons when I was a lad, and I don't rightly remember. I know he professes to be a Christian, so I'll take him at his word. If he is, then yeah, he'd go to heaven. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe in some future episode it shows that he actually doesn't believe what he says he believes or something, and maybe I'm wrong. But as far as I remember, yeah. Okay.
He said it like 7 times.
Ned Flanders says it?
He doesn't even know what Jesus is.
That's
He
weird.
can't even pronounce Jesus.
Can you pronounce it? I feel like that's not
No,
true.
no, in real life.
Oh, like the voice actor?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's probably true.
Bart's actually
I don't
like-
doubt it. Yeah, Bart's a girl. It's weird.
So is
Yeah,
Voiced by a
Bart
girl.
is
So is
And
Nelson.
like, and she's like a really funny old woman now.
Yeah, in her
And
60s.
she gets a lot of joy from pulling out the Bart Simpson voice in
Yeah,
random places.
she also plays
Like,
Nelson.
way too much joy. It's a little bit weird how much fun she has.
She has a TikTok.
Just so much fun. And it's like, it's awkward for me to watch how much
Does
fun
that
she
mean
has.
Bart and Nelson are the same person?
I don't think it's the Okay.
Oh, that
Revelation chapter 19 says this, both the beast, this would be the Antichrist, and his false prophet were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur. So the first two to go into the lake of fire, hell proper, all eternity,
I'm gonna fall.
is the Antichrist and the prophet. Ta-da! There we go. Alright, Willow? Thanks. Alright, now, again, you can argue about the timeline, but there's going to be a resurrection. I don't really care much when. Because the important part for this is not necessarily the exact day. It really is what changes. And what changes is kind of a big deal. What changes is, up to this point, people who die and go to heaven are just spirits. And at some point, the resurrection occurs, which means God gives you an eternal, earthly body. And that's pretty dang cool. Eternal earthly body. So you get to look like you. You get to seem like you, but no sickness, no death, eternal version of you. Pretty stinking cool. Okay. For this, we look in Revelation chapter 20, verse 6. Blessed and holy are those who share in the first resurrection. For them, the second death holds no power, but they will be priests of God in Christ and will reign with him 1,000 years. Pretty darn cool. 1,000 years. All right, so we've got the 1,000 years, the millennium. That is after the tribulation, and at the beginning of the millennium, something really cool happens. When the 1,000 years comes to an end, Satan will be let out of his prison. Oh, that's the, okay, I should have put like 2 verses on this one. So, yeah, beginning of the millennium, Satan goes into a pit. End of the millennium, Satan comes out of the pit. So for 1,000 years, Satan is bound in a pit. I don't know where that pit is. It might be in Sheol. It's my best guess. It's just a guess. What is my best guess? So, he's hanging out in the pit. After 1,000 years, Satan is released for one last hurrah. Satan tries to take over the world too. Electric Boogaloo. And when that happens, he loses. He loses big time.
Wait, electric balloon? What?
It's an idiom. It's not real. I added it. It's not on the slide because it's not in the Bible. It's an idiom. Don't listen to the Boogaloo part. It was an attempt at humor. I apologize deeply. Okay, anyways, so Satan tries to make a comeback, and he gets a whole bunch of earthlings to go with him and try and make an attempt to beat God. And wild guess at what happens. They lose. That's right. They don't even really get to fight. Jesus walks out on the battlefield with like the whole army, and then Jesus is just like, and they all just lose like that. Just done. Over.
It's just like,
It's hilarious.
you just get
Yeah, I mean, why do you waste your time on the army? Ah,
No,
Ah.
because he did give them choice.
Roger Daniel, he just
that's basically it. That's basically it.
It's just like he Thanos snapped the arm.
Thanos snap. Okay, so then you get to the White Throne Judgment. And at this point, Sheol is emptied out. This is the final moment. That's why Sheol's not here. Missing. Sheol gets emptied out, and everyone faces their final judgment. Spoiler alert. They're guilty. Well, no, they don't. That's not done yet. Because after judgment, that's where they go. They leave Sheol, they go to judgment, which is at least in God's presence for a second, and then they go to the lake of fire. Not yet, because this is future tense. These slides are in the future. The pit. But that's not hell, that's the pit. Possibly in Sheol. Yes. Some fallen angels, not all fallen angels.
I feel like they would like having that.
Oh, yeah. No. God can let him out if he wants to. It doesn't seem like he's gonna. It seems like he waits till judgment. Okay, so then, lake of fire, final destination for some. New heaven and new earth, final destination for others, because God is going to combine the new heaven and the new earth. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the old heaven and the old earth had disappeared. I started quoting Old King James. And the sea was also gone, and I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven like a bride, beautifully dressed dressed for her husband. This is Revelation 21. Revelation 21 is really cool. It's the beginning of the end. There's only 21 and 22. It's the end of the book after that. And so heaven and earth join up, and that's why there's that fantastic worship song, Heaven Meets Earth, like an unforeseen kiss or a sloppy wet kiss, depending on which version you guys learned.
Oh, sloppy wet.
Sloppy wet kiss at the time, right? See, sloppy wet kiss isn't gross when you stop and think about it. It's a city landing on a planet. That's not gross. It's a city landing on a planet. What's gross about that? Come on. All right, so lake of fire. Everyone who faces the white throne judgment goes there. The Bible says if you are in the first resurrection, you don't even go to the white throne judgment. You got a pre-judgment where you got to sit down with Jesus. It's called the Bema Seat judgment, and he hands out rewards there instead of handing out punishments. So by the time the white throne judgment comes up, Christians, they're done with judgment. That's behind them. It already happened. So he says, you're immune to this. All right, and then we get to the final ending. Here we go. Drum roll, please. Here we go. Revelation chapter 22. I know, but you wanted the description of heaven. There's not that many descriptions of heaven, but here you go. This is my favorite description of heaven. You ready? Here it is. Then the angel showed me a river with the water of life, clear as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb. It flowed down the center of the main street. On each side of the river grew a tree of life, bearing 12 crops of fruit with a fresh crop each month. The leaves were used for medicine to heal the nations. No longer will there be a curse upon anything, for the throne of God and of the Lamb will be there, and his servants will worship him, and they will see his face, and his name will be written on their foreheads. And there will be no night there, no need for lamps or sun, for the Lord God will shine on them, and they will reign forever and ever. Now, I know that doesn't give you all the details that you might be wondering about, but I would give you this. If you read through the Old Testament and you see the descriptions of God's kingdom, he does not seem to make a distinction between what a good kingdom is like, whether it's this side of heaven or the next. It seems like a good kingdom is a good kingdom is a good kingdom. And so it seems like there's going to be rulers, there's going to be jobs, there's going to be houses, there's going to be other cities besides this city. There's going to be things to do all over the planet, just like there's things to do all over the planet now. The only difference is no more bad.
Is TV bad?
Well, here's a question for you. Are books bad?
Yes, very bad.
Okay. Have you ever
Is food bad?
And when
Very, extremely bad.
But is there such thing as bad food?
Yes. Yes.
Is there such thing as a bad book?
No.
Is there such thing as a bad movie?
Yes.
TV.
So, no bad, yes, everything else.
Well, TV is bad.
It's the best way I can describe it.
Is sin bad?
So there will be good
Yeah,
movies.
I don't know why you want to, but yeah. I'm not gonna stop you. No, how would you do
What happens
that?
if it was an accident?
Everyone's eternal. How do you accidentally kill someone who can't die?
You have an eternal gun.
An eternal gun.
They're gonna give $100.
We have a shield of unshielding.
Ah, Shield of Unshielding.
Daniel, haven't you watched The Eternals? It's the worst movie ever.
I literally avoided watching it based on the fact that it was the
I
worst
watched
movie ever.
it. It's really bad.
Alright. Yeah, so any more questions about heaven?
Oh. No.
Alright, we're gonna go play a game outside.
Oh my gosh.
In the dim light of evening.
No.
Did any leaders go out and set up all? I bet they didn't.
I did.
Because I probably forgot to ask you to. We gotta go set it up real fast. Alright guys, real quick, everyone find your seats in here. I will explain it all out for the newbie noobs. We're not leaving. Some of these noobs don't even know how to play.
Is there any noobs?
Oh yeah, if you already know how to play, go set up with some leaders. Other leaders, can you go help the setup people? Okay. If you don't know how to play, stay here. Definitely stay here.
Yeah.
Oh, I just realized what that meant. I'm not here. Oh, thank you.
Does anybody have my $6?
I have $69.
Hey, I'll give you 5 pesos for that money.
Oh, can I survive?
Michael, you're done. Patrick, you're done.
What does he mean by that?
I mean, don't make that noise.
Oh, what about that?
Willow.
Oh, can you explain to me more about that noise?
Alright guys, we're playing all out.
I
You
hate
know how to
that
play, pay close attention. If you do know how to play, be very quiet.
Are we going on the field?
It's
Are
like
you
dark
able to know
outside.
how to play? Then be
And
very
it
quiet.
went
If you don't know how to play,
into
pay
my
close
mouth.
attention because you gotta learn. Clyde, you might be the only one here who doesn't know how to play.
He knows how to play. He played last week.
Wait, did you play last week?
No, 2 weeks ago.
Did you play 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
2 weeks ago.
Oh, you were late. Okay. For a moment. I'm trying to tell Clyde. Clyde's the only one. Clyde, come closer. Clyde, don't listen to them. They're trying to distract you so your team will lose. Okay, so it's like capture the flag.
We'll let you see
Okay,
Willow
let's go
drop
to-
like it.
Okay.
Exactly.
There's that.
Oh,
They all get a quadrant in the fields. Everyone's gonna have a treasure chest filled with flags. Not just one team. Okay, and the flags are colored coded. So they have different point values based on what color it is. The gold one's worth 10,000. The red one's worth 5,000. The green one's worth 2,000. The blue one's negative blue, or negative 4,000. It was negative 4,000. We'll get rid of those. Go turn on the lights.
Okay.
You literally handle it. You walk away. You're distracted. We will play outside in a moment. Not yet. Shush, I'm teaching Clyde how to play. Walk away. Go away so Clyde can see the screen. Alright, so each treasure chest is surrounded by a white circle. It's a safe zone for attackers from the other teams. They can run into your zone and get in the circle. They can't get tagged if they're in the circle. Okay? If they're not in the circle though, they can get tagged. And anyone who gets tagged can be brought to the super judge for extra points, or you just send them straight to jail. Your choice. Yep, and in anybody else's quadrant, you can get tagged. Okay? And then, yeah, so you get tagged, you can send them to jail or to the super judge for extra points. You only get one treasure on your person at a time. You can't carry 2 or 3 or 5. Shove it. Pocket full. One treasure per person at a time. Great, shush. Awesome, amazing. So if you get sent to jail 5, you can get rescued by your teammates by them running to jail and tagging you. When they do that, you both get a free walk back, but you have to take that walk back. You can't get rescued and then go to the treasure chest. You take your walk back. Both players. You have to go back to your quadrant and you can find whatever you want. Okay? So you hold hands so that you can broadcast that I am safe right now, you can't try to. Does that make sense? Otherwise they don't know. They're not going to trust you. Alright, so you get back to your zone, do whatever the heck you want to do. The other leaders are watching as judges. Don't put a bounce. So stay on the lawn itself. You leave the lawn, you're out of bounds, you're out. You're sent to jail. And that's it. That's the whole game. Alright, cool. Come with us outside, Dylan! You don't have to fight, but I can't leave you here alone. Alright guys, we're going outside! Let's go! I will build. That is a
yeah, I was caught. Well, might as well just go back to my team now.
I'm gonna toast that still down there.
Yeah.
Oh, let me just get it.
Why do you sound like a version of you legitimately actually do sound like a version of you. Ow. It's a plate. Getting a plate. Oh, that's what it was.
Why is it so nice and cold in here? It's a magical thing called AC.
Alright guys, find your way back in. You
Oh,
will
this
do
house
the
warm. I
course.
can touch the ceiling. What? Take the ceiling. I can.
I can touch the ceiling with you.
I can. Yeah, but I'm short. Did it? Yeah, but I'm short. Yeah, I can touch it. I was able to touch it 4 weeks ago. Man, that's because you hit me.
Wait, watch this.
And I'm about to punch you again. What if we don't want to?
No, boss, won't do it.
Ah!
Stop fighting. My stomach hurts eating too much water.
Let's do it.
No, boss, you don't want to.
Let's explore. Let's explore.
My bestie, your bestie, sat down by the fire.
Talking about hey now.
Oh, not hard.
Wait, did I say
What? This is my fourth.
Oh, my Rubik's Cube.
Totally can only have four.
Hey.
Oh yeah, that's a joke.
Only 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna need 4 big guys.
Let's go.
I just
I'll put my wall in. Oh.
Right there. There you are.
Judah, if you want to talk in the microphone, you can buy it.
I talked next to the microphone.
Nope. That's not allowed.
I just opened up the microphone and it started.
The wireless one? $700 for the wireless module is $130 for the head on it. And that's like another $70 for the phone. So if you want to buy it,
That was last year. How much is it? $120.
You can almost afford part of it.
Oh, those.
Alright guys, come find a seat. We'll reveal the winners and then give you a few more opportunities to win a donut.
Wait, can we win on money for
Tonight's donuts.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Boys and girls. Closed it.
Mental and
Can you
gentleman.
memorize the flag?
Mental gen and gentleman.
Oh, the second.
Okay, class. What are we learning about today? Get out of here, Gabe. Okay, I'm class.
Hey,
You're
I'm the
teaching class.
assistant.
Oh,
I'm teaching the class.
you have
Get
to
over
have
here.
class.
Hey, you, get over here. Hey,
Oh my! I was gonna take my hat off.
Hey, boy.
It was like,
All right, ladies and gentlemen. The winners of tonight's
Yeah, well, it's too much, too expensive.
nice one. This is sad.
So what team is victorious?
How did we get so far behind?
Orange, let's go.
orange team.
Credit card debt.
We were negative.
We were actually.
I'm so sorry, blue team. I'm so sorry.
How?
How did we get so
We're
far
in
behind?
credit card debt.
Do you want to see each one?
Yeah.
Oh, this which team was on?
Actually, let's open on the big screen so you guys can see it.
I'm pretty sure we only have positives in every round. Oh yeah, they did cheat. They cheated.
Oh, I see. If you lost, it's because someone cheated.
No, they actually did. Jeremiah helped them.
Jeremiah was helping them.
Yes, he was.
Yes, he was.
So we told him to get lost.
That's a lot.
Okay, so I never did anything. The only reason I did
Alright guys,
was
so round one.
awesome, and people should recognize that. So, what team won?
We had
5, 2,
So round one, you can see that blue got 12
I
negative.
don't think that's true.
Nice one, Bill.
Green got 8 points. But orange and pink both got good scores, 24 and 30.
Daniel wants this. He wants it really, really bad. So
Hey,
he asked me to
If
go
you're talking
get
to
it.
you, have to buy it.
I asked them to get it.
So this is what I'm doing. I'm delivering it now.
Thank you. I have to teach in the main service tomorrow, so my voice is a precious resource at the moment. But then, Pink, I'm sorry to say, you got negative 32
Oh my gosh.
on round 2, which completely invalidated your score of 24
Because
in round 1. Okay? Then we've got Orange taking a 48 on round 2, on top of their 30 in round 1, which is a very good lead. And then Green did okay-ish in round 1, got a 22, which is another good score. Then in round 3, Blue got a negative 11, which almost completely removed round 2. And Green got another good score, Orange got another good score, Pink got less good, but still good. And then in round 4, we've got a near tie between Green
how did we
and
get 0?
Orange.
I counted.
What?
counted.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one again. That's the one
Daniel,
just
there's
looked
a wrong number of blues in round 4.
at. Like a total?
Yeah.
Oh, I know. That's because we kept finding more as the game went on. Yeah, okay.
No, we
So
didn't
here,
get
look,
0
down here,
any round.
16, right? For, which one did I just highlight? Round 2, there's 16. For this one, there's 15.
Which
For
team
this
won?
one,
That doesn't make any
there's
sense.
15.
Look at the points. Look at the points. That
What?
doesn't make any sense. How does it,
These are not point values,
no,
these are
how is it
counts.
0 though?
Because this is plus 10, this is plus, what is it? 10 total. This is plus,
4.
are they 1,000 each? I thought they were 2,000 each.
They're
So it's plus
1,000.
8. So 10, 10, and 8, right? Okay. What's 7 times 4?
It's 4,000?
Negative 4,000.
I thought there were 2,000.
So this equals 28 positive, and then this equals negative 28 all by itself.
8,000.
What?
I thought the reds were
No.
8,000.
Here, I'll put it back up for you if you want. Oh, there we go.
Guys, I found you, honey.
10,000, 5,000, 2,000, negative 4,000.
I felt happy.
That is literally the same thing that I just told you from memory.
But they did cheat.
It's
They
corroboration.
cheated. They cheated.
It's corroboration, my friend. So, in sum,
You should have admitted that
in
you were
sum,
wrong.
Orange always did good without exception. Everyone else went up and down or did poorly the whole time. Therefore, Orange won. Ah, yes. That's it. Orange was good the whole dang time. Okay?
You're wrong.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, without contest and without debate, Orange has won it.
But green is the real
Please
winner.
report to the kitchen for your donut. Judy, you are not Team Orange. Where are you going? No donuts for Judah's team. He's not Team Orange. But that's what I'm giving you. Alright guys, question for you. Do you want another fast-paced game and then the final topic of Angels? Or Angels and then fast-paced games down in the flat room?
Wait, what are we doing?
Either a fast-paced game now and then Angels right after, or Angels right now and a fast-paced game down in the flat room. What's after? Which one? You want games after? And Angels now? Okay. Anybody else?
Guys, that's a song. That makes you
That's a good point. I think it's Angels now. Everybody find the seats! On your way to your seat, put some trash in the trash can. Awesome. Just so awesome. Elliot, stop breaking your leg. And also Dylan, stop breaking Dylan. Well, it was the game we were going to play, but then you said we should do Angels first. Angels time, ladies and gentlemen, Angels time. You could trade a candy to someone who doesn't want a donut. Alright guys, put some trash in the trash can, find a seat, we're going to talk about Angels.
Okay, let me just take my Arizona out. I know, we only have a $2 bill, a $1 bill, and a $2 bill.
Alright, I need the pool balls back on the pool table, please. Pool balls back on the pool table, please. I'm sorry, the pool balls should be on the pool table. I'm revoking permission. I'm revoking permission. Pool balls on pool table, please. Thank you. Find the chair! Somewhere near over here. Kitchen is closing in 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, I'm not gonna hold it. Alright, you have until I find my water. Woohoo!
We need a spray bottle to get the cats away.
I never read them.
Aiden?
I was literally just
I'm not
taking
Angel.
it.
So I see you walking that kitchen.
I'm literally everybody did. Why did you say that?
As you will.
What do you think that is? $3. Give me the money back. What do you mean that's not $2? That's mine. That's mine. You're letting me in a cheap ID. No, you did not. That is so mine. I called that Arizona. None of those are his. The dollar's mine. You never gave me back my dollar.
You got 25 cents. Steal my money. I got you.
I want a donut.
Well, maybe I'll
Harry donuts. What?
Boys and girls, come on over to the bar.
Why do you have a
Yes, you do. You actually do. I don't need to refill it.
Everybody by the kitchen, go find a seat.
What are you gonna do? Donut. I had to pay $2. My $2 bill for this. I bought in Arizona for a donut. If I have a problem? Yes, I have a problem and I'm taking the money.
We can ask you that. How much is it?
No way, guys, if I have a, they pay $1 for a problem.
I'm running out of ways to give you guys donuts.
Aiden,
So from now
people
on,
give us
all you have to do
$1
is
for a
bring some
donut.
people who
What?
have a donut.
People have to give you $1 for a problem.
Hannah gave Alan $2 for a donut.
No,
Your mom gave Alan $2 for a donut.
I spent $2 on a donut. A $2 bill.
Gavin, we're starting over here. Gavin, we're starting over here. I've been trying to get everyone over here for several minutes now. Please don't start up video games now.
Are we gonna play another game?
We will downstairs. Up here, I'm going to give out donuts for reading.
Okay, good. What are we reading? The Hobbit? Lord of the Rings?
It's pretty short stuff too.
Power?
It's literally a line of text.
Star Wars is a lot.
Star Wars!
One little sentence. It's reading a sentence out loud.
Are you gonna choose on me?
Everyone, which one's better? Harry Potter or Star Wars? Raise your hand. Star Wars! Star Wars! Star Wars!
Harry Potter or what?
Raise your hand for Harry Potter.
What time?
I've never watched any of this, so I don't care.
Oh, and there's a movie.
Daniel!
I sincerely
Mommy! Miss Martinez, you want to you?
do not agree with one of the core principles in Harry Potter though, and that is expecting children to do adult things and not giving them a lifeline.
Daniel, we should just turn out to go respecting children.
Okay. The other problem is Sorcerer's Stone. Think about it for a second. It was in a place that Professor, what's his name?
Dumbledore.
No, the bad guy.
Oh,
No, not Snape. What is it?
The man.
Quirrell, thank you. Professor Quirrell. It was in a place Professor Quirrell couldn't get to. Literally, it was safe until Harry got there. So if Harry did nothing, nothing would have happened. Also, Tegan, your water has spilled over.
I don't like making conversation.
I feel like you both should help clean it up real quick. Just go get some paper, come on back, wipe it up. So I fundamentally disagree with Professor Dumbledore sending Harry on missions that are
Whose candy is this?
I think that's a horrible idea. As told from the perspective of a child, it makes sense. But if it's written by an adult, then I have a real problem. And that is the disregard for child safety.
Theory.
Yeah.
Dumbledore knew that Harry couldn't die.
That's a great theory. Is it in the book?
He like just looks about it.
If it's Ron Weasley is Dumbledore and you're gonna go down that rabbit hole, I'm like all for it. If that was in the book, it would easily beat Star Wars. It's the best plot twist there could possibly be in any story.
Which one's better, Star Wars or Empire?
It really depends on what era you cut it off at. All right, I need Grace and Gavin to be over here in this group. I don't know why you're over there looking at a black TV, but you should not be. Gavin and Grace, over this way. Gavin, please don't be anywhere near the television.
Okay, it's on.
Thanks. That's really your fault, though. Because it wasn't on until you just turned it on.
It popped off again.
Ah, yes, Judah.
I don't like the conversation because I've never seen or read either of those.
Ah, well, that's a thing. It's okay. He doesn't
I've
have
never
to.
seen it. I've always hated that movie.
You've never seen it, but you've always hated that movie?
What's your problem?
Yeah, I just hate it.
Thank you. Thank
Wait,
you.
what movie did you
Wait,
always
wait,
hate?
do you hate it or do you hate him now? I'm
No,
confused.
I don't like Star
Both.
Wars.
What's your
I don't
problem?
like Star
Plot
Wars.
twist.
Is it because you grew up in a house of geeks?
She's a party.
Willow, is it because you grew up in a house
Hey,
of
look,
geeks?
Project
And
Amazon, let's
overinflate the
go.
importance of Star
I
Wars?
am a geek.
Daniel, let's turn back on.
But not about Star Wars.
I can turn it
Daniel, the movie
off.
turned on.
Daniel.
That's what I thought it was. Okay, it's been killed for you. It's dead. Alright. Oh, now it's on. Oh.
I can turn it off.
Do you know how to get it off? Okay, just get the whole thing
No!
off.
Yes!
All that. I don't need three of you. Three of you doing it is not helpful. You did nothing. Judy, you did nothing.
Yes, I did.
You literally brought
He
it
pressed
down.
play.
But you pressed power. Instead of turning it off, you brought up the menu because it's a 1 by TV.
I still pressed power.
Alright, Micah and Emily, silence and motionless. Listen, hold the button and don't let go till the screen's off. There it is. Amazing. Amazing. It's like rocket surgery. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, not including the last 10 minutes, we're going to talk about angels.
I thought rockets were science.
I'm hoping you guys have some questions in your head about angels. If you don't, that's okay. We're going to read you some quick little facts about angels based on the Bible verses we have about them. And if you guys have questions, raise your hand. I'm going to try and go pretty quick. And I'm going to try and you guys, I'm going to try and have you guys read what's on the screen. So don't raise your hand with a question. I know that's weird, right? If you have a question, if you have a question, wait till the end. For now, if you'd like to read, raise your hand. Does that make sense?
I
Okay, here
can't
we
read
go.
anymore.
Emily, you're up first. Here we go. Sorry. This one I'm going to read. The next thing you can read. I forgot the slide was in there. So, angels, that word is a weird word because it does not refer to a species or a created kind. It has a different meaning as far as how it got to us. So there's a few times in the Bible where this word is used, and it doesn't mean what we think of when we say angel. What do you guys think of when you say angel?
Oh,
What do you say? What do you think of?
I think of a bird.
Okay, yeah? Ooh, anyone else?
A messenger.
Yeah.
A homing pigeon.
The nightlight with the angel? Yes. Okay, Grace?
I'm a superbook and also
Oh, super okay.
and also a messenger from God.
Hmm.
Good circles.
Patrick?
A creation of God.
Something God created, okay, yeah. Aiden?
A
Another one?
messenger.
A messenger, yeah.
Copycat.
A homing pigeon, nice, yes.
When they first see him.
They're scared of them. Willow, is your cat saying angel? Oh, okay. If you said no, I was going to be really confused.
No, it's just an angel.
Yeah. Oh, you think of that word. Okay, great. So this word,
sort of glows in the dark because she has white on her.
this word is our English word, and it came from the Latin, which came from the Greek, angelos, or really just messenger. You could have literally had a mailman back in ancient Greek times, and you would have called him an angelos. Someone comes to you and says, the king has a proclamation. He's an angelos. Someone comes and says, your brother has died. He's an angelos. So just meant messenger. It would take context in a sentence in the Bible for us to realize, we mean that heavenly thing that's not human that God sends on missions and stuff. It would take context, because the Greek word, at least, does not distinctly mean that. And in Middle English, we got it down to angel, which is just angel with an E on the end. Okay, so now some quick facts about the angels we're usually thinking of when we say angel. Okay. Emily, you ready?
Yeah.
You gonna read
I have
this?
to read the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Aiden, go.
Why?
Grace and Gavin, quiet please. Emily's gonna read.
Okay. Angels are in an entirely different order of being than humans. Human beings do not become angels after they die. Angels will never become and never were human the beings. Sorry. God created the angels, just as He created humanity. Angels are spiritual beings that can be a certain degree.
Sorry, that can to a certain degree.
Oh, that can to a certain degree take on physical form. Humans are primarily physical beings, but with a spiritual aspect.
Congratulations. Thank you, Emily. That was some good reading.
Kind of hard to read.
Emily, you can go have a donut.
Like right now.
Right now.
Like now.
Go, get donut.
Oh, can I read next?
Cool.
Cool.
Alright.
Like that entire
You want us to read next?
I do. Me.
Ready?
She cheated.
I don't
Oh, I could read that.
think
I could read it.
Maybe.
I could read it.
I'll be great.
Can you read that?
I can.
Okay, just read it. Go ahead, Elliot.
Angels are mentioned 273 times in the Bible.
Very nice. One more.
Angels were created by God. Genesis 2:1.
1:16.
I asked Elliot to read. You guys don't need to help her. She already said she was having trouble seeing it from that distance. Just be patient. Let her finish, okay? If it's your turn to read, you can read. One more, Elliot.
Angels were created to live for eternity. Luke 20:36, Revelation 4.
Very cool. Thank you, Elliot. You can go pick out yourself a donut. Anyone else who's not had a donut that might want to read?
Yes, you did. I said $2.
I had a half a donut. That's a donut.
Great. You want to read?
Yes, please.
Okay. Alright, go for it.
Angels represented.
Wait. Sorry. Hey, Peanut Gallery? It's her turn to read? Close your mouth. Go ahead, please.
Angels were presented when God created the world.
Oh, just present.
Present when God created the world. Job 38:1-7.
Thank you.
Angels do not marry. Matthew 22:30. Angels are wise and intelligent. 2 Samuel 14:17. Daniel 9:21-22.
Very nice. Thank you. Okay, so real quick from this little description of angels, you may. From this little description of angels, does that match so far with what was in your head? Or does this seem a little bit off from what was in your head when you just think of an angel? Does that make sense? Does it match or not match? Tell me. Judah.
I thought angels did marry like the first people. They were like married and they were like
Ooh, okay. Popular belief. I can't prove it or disprove it. I kind of tend to land on that side. But marriage is different.
Like Maui.
And angel is different. Okay? There's two differences here. Number one is marriage is a thing created by God. It's between two humans. So even if you fake it, you break one of his rules or definitions of what marriage is.
like that girl who married herself.
Sure, as an example, yes, that would count. Well, whatever, but it would break the definition as far as how God outlined it. So that's one problem. But the other problem is we're talking about angels in these listings as ones that still follow God. Those angels, whether you think they married humans or it was something else, in either case, they wouldn't have been angels that were obeying God, they would have been fallen. So that's a fundamental difference. Does that make sense? No, like actually just demons. So that would be a fundamental difference. No. He was just filled with the Holy Spirit. God gave him super strength because God was giving him to like so, like the child of the demon. Okay, so it doesn't call them that. If that's what happened, let's say that's what happened in Genesis, what it calls them is Nephilim. Just don't worry. Well, this is why there's contest about whether or not it only says it in that one spot in Genesis right before the flood, and what it says is that the sons of God married the women of the world. So people argue about what sons of God means.
Don't throw up.
The idea is that it's what they had to call human
before the biblical word for a demon. That's the theory. That's the theory. So it could also be said that it's just guys that were supposed to be following God and were following God and suddenly married horrible women that were not following God at all. That's the other interpretation. So it's like people who were true to God for a while when they were growing up, suddenly married a terrible wife and went off the rails and stopped following God. The children of them, they got that name, definitely. The children of them. So whether it was fallen angels sleeping with a woman or a godly man sleeping with a not godly woman, either way, their offspring in Genesis calls Nephilim. So then you get down the road and they're talking about Nephilim in later books. It doesn't rehash what a Nephilim is. It just throws the word out there and says he was a Nephilim. Yes, but it's a very different string of words. It just translates the Son of God, which is a bummer. But totally different words in the Hebrew. Does that make sense? Okay, the other thing too to keep in mind about Jesus is Son of God was not a unique title for him. In John 3:16 it says his only begotten Son. He makes a really big point of adding begotten. There's actually a bunch of instances throughout the Old Testament where someone it means your direct child. So like your grandpa doesn't beget you, only your parents beget you. Does that make sense? So you, in some older languages, you can have the same word mean father or grandfather or great-grandfather. It might not even be a different word. But begat or beget, that's a verb that means literally, it's your child. You made them. So, only begotten Son for Jesus means there's a certain relationship between God and Jesus no one else has. Where actually the phrase Son of God or sons of God happens all throughout the Old Testament. It references lots of different people. And the context is kind of different in every time. The one that's unique to Jesus is really weird. It's Son of Man. That one's unique. Isn't that weird? You think that'd be the one that's like, oh, I'm a son of man, you're a son of man. What did you think? But not in the Bible. In the Bible, it's topsy-turvy. Lots of people are called Son of God, only Jesus gets called Son of God. Weird, right? Okay. So, again, don't make too much of the phrasing, sons of God. It is the only time that we get to mention well done. So that's the one that people just keep arguing about. Anyways, it is actually about that. So that's good. That was about demons, which are just fallen angels, angels that fell away from God and stopped obeying Him. So anything else about this strike you as odd? Anything stand out to you that goes against what you thought of when you thought of angels? Yeah.
Angels were further than God could do.
Isn't that weird? Yeah. I think it's strange. But essentially, this physical creation came after the spiritual stuff. The spiritual stuff, he doesn't really give us a timeline. But we see the angels having knowledge of creation firsthand in the Bible, that they witnessed it. So, that means they created it. Kind of has to be that way. Yeah?
Actually, wouldn't have guessed that they would mention that you've done 273.
I know, 273 times is a lot. Yeah. Maybe. Yes?
Oh, Kevin.
Maybe. Okay.
I asked for us to get ready.
This is a
Angels are
freebie.
faster than humans. Daniel 9:21, Revelation 14:6.
Forgot about that one.
Stop that.
Daniel's a book. It's a cool book.
Don't do that.
Yeah, very cool.
It's a weird book. I think it's kind of weird.
The name's pretty awesome.
It's a great book, okay? Just
Yeah, it's a great book, like your brain.
What's a great book? I need a reader.
Daniel? The book should be based off of
Simon.
you, Daniel.
Simon.
Who's Simon? Oh, hi, Simon.
Only Simon should be talking.
Where's Theodore?
Angels have knowledge of and interest in the things of humans. Daniel
Oh.
10:14, Luke 15:20.
There's a tilde right there for some reason. That's weird.
What's Tilly?
Or no, maybe that's a back quote. That's not a tilde. It's a back quote.
Tilly.
Why do I have a back quote? Must have slapped my keyboard at some point. Sorry. All right, keep reading, Simon.
Angels of spiritual beings.
I know. It's out there, right? Some new knowledge.
Psalms 104, 104:4, Ephesians 3:10.
Why do I have a pool on stuff like that?
Sorry, Simon.
Some angels can be invisible. Job 4:15-16, Numbers 22:21.
I would love to know one day what is the physical thing that happens when a spirit being like an angel comes to the earth and does physical things. Does that make sense? I can totally imagine that God could reveal to you what an angel looks like by just letting your spirit, because you have a spirit, just letting your spirit see something that's there only in spirit. And that there's no interaction with light, your eyes aren't really perceiving it at all. That essentially you could like close your eyes and you'd still see it. That's kind of how I think of it. But if that's not the case, if it's actually the case that a spirit being comes here and there is some physical process by which light can bounce off an angel and go into your eyes and you can see him, I want to know how the heck that works. What in the world is going on? But that's not really how the Bible does it. So, yeah, there's not very many physics lessons in the Bible, as it turns out. Simon, go grab yourself a donut.
Good job, Simon. I have a question.
Guys, pool balls, stay on the pool table.
Why do you have a
Pool balls, stay on the pool table.
Dino, I have a question.
Do not take them off the pool table. If you find them off the pool table, please gently deposit them. Don't roll them at people. Gently deposit them on the pool table. Thank you.
I have a
All
question.
right.
Dino.
Yes, you have a question?
What if you change my read that?
All right, Patrick, you get to read next. Did you have a question though, Caitlin?
No.
Oh, okay. Patrick, yeah. Here we go.
Angels are not meant to be worshipped. Revelation is 19:10. Angels have a will of their own.
Isaiah.
Isaiah 14:12 through 14. In Jude 1:6.
Very nice. And last one.
Angels are subject to Christ.
Thank you very much. All right.
1 Peter 3:22.
I totally forgot to read that bit. Okay. Good try, Gavin, but don't do that, please. Thank you. You can do it. Where you go. All right. Is there a freebie on here? Nope, that's it. Okay. Cool beans. Real quick, I want to point this one out. Does anyone feel like this is true or not true? Does anyone have a feeling about this one? Anyone have any other ideas besides that might be valid? Guesses? Yes, fine. Interesting. What makes you think that, feel that? Because I've often felt that. Yeah? I mean, that makes sense, right? I almost feel like sometimes when I read about an angel, it almost seems like they're closer to a robot than a free will being. And it's just like they're doing whatever God programmed them to do. But then you have to ask the question, how did a third of them fall away from God and turn into demons and start following Satan? And it's like that kind of breaks it.
Wait, most of them went to Satan?
No,
No,
a
a third.
Third. It's the opposite of most. It is a minority.
Oh, that's
Third.
not that much then.
Gavin, please don't steal my Legos. You can ask to have Legos, but don't just steal them. It's not cool.
I have grape juice in the shape of a sword. And it freezes. Blessed eats
Yep.
thin feet.
No, but you can make them sticky.
But it's blessed by the priest.
Great.
What about salt?
I don't think that they would do anything but corrode his armor.
What about cloth?
I mean, he might back away so you don't stab him.
Or throw a book at him?
He might get
But I
hurt.
mean the Bible.
He might also get hurt.
What happens
I
if you
might
start
learn some knowledge.
worshipping?
Taken, why are you trying to rob a bank? Have I kept you up too late, Taken? What is happening right now?
She often robs the bank.
She's back there mugging people with a banana and a hairbrush.
She often does that at night.
What have I done? What have I done? Alright.
Evil laugh.
Yep. Jesus Christ is not on par with angels, he's way above them. So they are subject to him. Alright. I've got some more fun facts about
Wait,
angels.
Daniel, I have a question.
You want to read?
Oh, come on.
Or do you have a question?
Yeah.
Great!
Daniel, I have a question about the last thing.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
What is it?
Okay, so angels are subject to Christ
Yep.
and have a will of their own.
Yep.
Does that make them like a servant back then, like a paid off servant, you know?
Kinda.
But if they have a will of their own, do they ever do like their own activities?
Kinda, yeah. I think they have downtime. It seems like, from what we read of them, that most of the interactions humans have with angels is intentional. God gives them a mission, they go do the mission. But there are some instances, especially as you get into Revelation, where angels are just part of the story. They're not hand delivering the story the whole time. And it just talks about, as he sees visions of heaven, what the angels are doing. And so it seems like some of the time it's very intentional, very directed. You do this now. Other times they're just kind of there. And there's like the one verse, Luke 15:10, that basically says that angels watch us, and not like guardian angels. And people often tell us stories of guardian angels, how every child was a guardian angel, and they will never die. It's like, wait a second, what about all the kids who died? And they'll never stub their toe because they're guardian angel. What about my toes? I stub my toes plenty of times. Where the heck's my guardian angel? The Bible doesn't actually say every kid gets their guardian angel. What it does say is that angels, apparently in their downtime, are just watching us like, what? They do what? Why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. Wait, why would he say that? That's a lie. He knows that's a lie. Oh,
What, so?
wow. So we're like their soap opera, but with like a message. There's meant to be something they're supposed to be learning from us. There's meant to be something that they're supposed to get out
They're
of
learning our
watching.
weakness.
Does that kind of make sense? All right.
Wait, Daniel, aren't
Yes,
angels,
sorry. Back over to you. Okay, here we go.
Daniel, aren't angels jealous of us?
I don't think that's the right word. Maybe some. But I don't think so. Maybe some of them are. I don't think so. But maybe. Alright, have a seat.
Take that.
If we should be jealous of anything, it's God's grace.
World of
Well, what?
Hey!
Are angels sort of
Using it right now, as a matter of fact. Alright, wait.
What?
darkness?
Smile, friend.
Alright, find a chair.
Where is it?
And go.
Yeah, but it's a footrest now. No! No. Come on. No one guarantees a footrest.
No guarantee.
I guarantee.
Like joy and loving.
Longing. It's a good try. It's, you gotta read the references.
Job.
Oh, yeah, sorry. 38.
38, 6, 7.
First Peter.
1 Peter 1:12.
Very nice. Okay. You got another one. These are hard words. You got another one.
Angels are not
Omnipresent?
omnipresent.
No, there's no C. Omnipresent. You can move closer if that'll help.
They're big words, okay?
That's totally fair. You got the worst words in the whole reading list. Okay, so O-M-N-I is omni. It's a Greek word.
Omni.
It means all.
Omnipotent.
Yep. Omnipotent.
Omnipotent.
This one's like science, so it's omniscient.
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 Daniel 10, 12, 13. Jude 1, 9.
Amazing. Last one, and you're done.
Angels were created to glorify and worship God, the Father, and God, the Son.
Yes. And the references?
Revelation 4:8, Hebrews 1:6.
Kudos. Go get yourself a donut. Hold on. Cool. You already had a donut? You just like reading? That's great. Would you like to grant someone a donut who hasn't had a donut?
I'm not.
Well, Tegan, that's kind of not true. I kind of tried to give you like 2 separate donuts, and you gave them away.
2 separate donuts.
Did you ever got the second one?
No, I got one with the orange one.
Yeah.
The other 2, I gave them one to Willow.
That's what I'm saying. It's not my fault you gave them away. That's what I'm saying. I tried to give you them, and you gave them away. That's not my fault.
Am I allowed to give it to my mom?
Yeah, if you want. That's fine. Go pick it up.
But then we wouldn't get a donut.
Just wrap it up in some paper, something like that. Cool beans. All right, who wants to read next?
They have not.
Yes,
done
Moses?
donuts.
You want to read? All right, cool. Get on closer so we can hear you.
Yeah, Moses does. I do.
Judah, I'm not going to call on someone. I have to keep shushing. I'm sorry. Same goes for you.
angels report to God. Job 1:6-2.
Right. It's Job. It's definitely Job.
Angels will join all believers in the heavenly kingdom. Hebrews 12:22-23.
Nice. And oh, that was it. You got off light because apparently I didn't have a nice even divisible by 3.
Go get a donut.
Mr. Moses, have you already had a donut?
No.
Oh, go have a donut.
I haven't
He's had like 3. Moses, have you had like 3 donuts?
I haven't had a donut.
They claim like
I
3.
can vouch. I've never seen him.
He literally just told
I
me.
can vouch that you're blind.
Yeah, that's why I wear glasses.
I can vouch. He
Well,
literally just told me.
I know that during the puzzle game,
Rob the black.
I know that during the puzzle game at the very beginning, Moses never won. He tried hard a couple times, then he gave up. He stopped trying so hard. I know he didn't win that one. I don't think he won it all out.
I've never won a donut so far.
So I don't know why he would have. Yeah, I don't know how he would have won one. Right. Well, he wasn't up here the whole time, so I was just going through the whole night in my head. I don't think he ever got one. That was it. Good job. All right. Anybody else need a donut?
I actually.
No, I got a
stronger,
Smurf
good.
donut, and I threw it, and I gave it back to her.
I threw it in the, and then I gave it back to her.
I gave it back to her.
Okay, so this is what
She threw it away. It was horrible.
What?
I know a little bit. I got like $2.
Why?
Well, I thought it was that good. It wasn't.
So you're
I bought it.
complaining,
I bought it.
which is different. What? You're not supposed to buy donuts.
No, she had a donut. I bought it up in Arizona.
Then that's just buyer's remorse.
No.
That's just buyer's remorse, Judah. You can't claim. You can't claim no donut.
I haven't
Yes,
had a
Aiden?
donut.
I don't know. Have you had one?
He threw one at my face.
He
And we've had 2 donuts so far. You
But
won
Jeremiah
twice.
took them. I have one by Jeremiah took it.
You still had a donut. That's as much as
Oh my
me.
gosh, what is happening? Yes,
I'm
kid.
gonna say what I'm saying.
He could. He absolutely could. It wouldn't be with me though.
I'm suing you for not giving me a donut.
That makes about as much sense as She-Hulk. All right. So you're like the only person in the room who wants a donut but hasn't had a donut. You had a donut? Then we're good.
I recommend it.
All right, guys. It is now time to clean the room.
Guys,
Ladies and gentlemen, move about the room. Look down. Find Bibles. Put them on the shelf. Find trash. Put it in the trash can. Look out in the hallway. Find a vacuum. Bring it in here. Clean the floor with the said vacuum. Put cans and recyclables in the recycle bin. I tried not to. I've heard reviews though.
Nothing but bad reviews. The only good reviews ignore like the actual reasons it's bad. As far as I can tell. I have a spare set in a cardboard box. I just thought it was that.